Real Teddy Talks. Welcome to my channel. I'm back again. Today is Saturday and it is GovCon Saturday. That's government contracting for those of you who don't know. And if you didn't catch my previous couple videos, I'm back. The Real Teddy Talks is back and I'm doing videos every day. Indefinitely, so we'll see how that goes. I decided to do some themed videos. Saturday is GovCon Saturday. Tomorrow is Soul Searching Sunday. Monday is going to be Money Motivation Monday. Tuesday is Transition Tuesday, and that's when I'm going to discuss my transition out of the military, and this could be for anyone going through COVID, going through life changes. It's going to be your transition from one thing to another. So I'll hit on some topics that will interest you if you're going through a transition in your life. Wednesday is, what is Wednesday? Oh no, Health is Wealth Wednesday. So we have Money Motivation Monday, and I will talk investing, I will talk finances, I will talk budgeting, I will talk in a plethora of different things that talk about money. Tuesday is Transition Tuesday, and there I will discuss my transition out of the military, but you can listen for transition ideas from one career to the next, one plot in life to the next plot in life. I know COVID has brought a lot of change for people, so this may interest you. Wednesday is Health is Wealth Wednesday. I'll give you some of my tips for how I stay healthy, how I put health first, and it's my number one priority, aside from my family, of course, and keeping my finances straight and my job. But health is the one thing you can control, and it matters so much. And then Thursday is Entrepreneurship Thursday, and Friday's Freestyle Friday. So I look forward to you coming along on this journey. So let's get into it. Now for today's session of GovCon, Government Contracting Saturday, I'm going to discuss just basically what government contracting is, for those of you who don't know. So as I said in previous videos, I've been in the military a long time, over 20 years, and I didn't really understand government contracting until a family friend of mine was doing it. And it's so funny. Okay, let me go backwards. So I deal in finance with the military. So I've seen government contracts, like actually held them in my hand. I've looked at vendors. I've looked at the contract, to see how it was written, the period of performance. That means how long it's going to last. I knew about option years, like you get a base year for a contract and you have like 1 to 5 option years generally. So I've seen all that. And I saw the vendors and the names, and I've purchased things through vendors for the government. And I just didn't put, sometimes you just know pieces of things and you don't know the whole picture. And that's what makes education so amazing, because once you can put the pieces together, it like blows your mind and you're like, I didn't get that, right? So a family friend of mine was talking about government contracts and how he was getting into it with his business, his small business. And small business is used lightly. I think it's under, I don't want to throw out a number, but it's under millions of dollars of the worth of your business, okay? Millions of dollars. So you can still be a small business and have income, revenue of millions of dollars. So he was trying to get into it. So I took that conversation and I looked into it more. This was several years ago. And I remember, I'm dating myself, but there was a commercial and there was this guy named Ask Let's Go. And he had on a suit and it had all these question marks on it. And he was like, Ask Let's Go, did you know the government gives you money to do X, Y, and Z? Did you know the government does X, Y, and Z? Well, in the government contracting realm, it's, did you know that the government spends $500 billion in government contracts a year? And this is important because you have to understand that because the government is not a corporation and it's run on taxpayer dollars, right? Federal dollars, the federal government. So state governments run on state dollars, federal governments run on federal dollars. So we collectively as the United States takes 500 billion with a B, bravo, dollars a year. And they buy things, they keep organizations running, they keep their agencies, the 15 agencies running. You have like your Department of State, Department of Justice, Department of Defense, the department that's in charge of all the military, all of that. So to keep that running, for us to buy our pencils and pens and the chairs in our office and the equipment and the MRAPs and the military fighting machines and the guns and the planes and all that is under government spending, right? And of that $500 billion, 23% of that has to be spent with small businesses, designated small businesses. So not the Boeings, not the Lockheed, not the Raytheon. We're talking you and me. My business, your business, our small businesses, 23%. That's like, let me do my math. It's like 115 billion dollars a year goes to small businesses. All right. So, and you can tap into that because if you're not into government contracting, if you're not registered in sam.gov, you cannot tap into that. All right. So mind blown, right? So I'm like, okay, there's $100 billion that's set aside for small businesses, and I can get a piece of that. I mean, if you ask your friends, do you know what government contracting is? Most people are going to say no. And if they know what it is, they only know a small piece of it. And I could get into more, and I will. You know, I'm going to do GovCon Saturday, so we'll talk about this often. But it goes even further when we talk about set-asides, and those are within that 23%. There are also another funnel of contracts that are set aside for small business designators. So that's women-owned small business, economically disadvantaged women-owned small businesses, veteran-owned, service-disabled veteran-owned, small business, and what they call 8A, and that's for a disadvantaged group, right? So you have all these, and that's between, of that 23%, 3 to 5% of those contracts are set aside each of those groups. So it's crazy. There's money out there to be made. And if you're into government contracting and you've been watching any of the popular YouTubers, people that are like on the cycle, they're going to try to get you into it and try to sell you something, buy a course, whatever. The problem is, what they don't tell you is it's hard. It's not hard to get in. It's not hard to register a company. It's not hard to become an LLC, get your EIN, get registered in sam.gov, although that can take some time. But it's not hard to do any of those things. What is hard is researching your NAICS code, researching your business specialty, finding out what the government is buying that you can sell, or you figuring out what to sell the government that they're buying, and using the proper federal codes to do it. Making your bid, that's difficult. Reading a solicitation, that's what the contract is put out as, and it's telling you we're soliciting for people to bid on this contract. Figuring that process out. Pricing. How do you tell the government how much something costs? It's not simple as saying, well, this cost me $5 a widget, and I want to charge you $10 a widget. Easy enough. I'm going to charge you $20 a widget. We've all heard about I think it was years ago, maybe 15 years ago. I think it was during the Clinton administration, so it's probably longer, 20 years ago. They were talking about a toilet or something that cost $15,000, or a wrench that was priced at $10,000 or something. I'm not saying it's a lie, but I see how stuff like that happens, right? But you have to know your pricing. And with the government, they don't always choose the lowest price, but a lot of times they do if it meets the need. So you have to know how you're priced next to your competitors, but you don't get to see your competitor pricing. So there's a lot about government contracting that is very hard. And all I can recommend on this GovCon Saturday is, if you're in government contracting, if you're new to government contracting, if you're trying to get into government contracting, you have to pick your battles, okay? You have to decide early on if you're going to do everything yourself, which is what I think a lot of us want to do and what I wanted to do. But soon after I got into it, I knew I needed a mentor. I needed someone that has been doing it, and they're willing to sit right next to me and say, this is how it's done, step by step by step. This is how we do this step by step. Here's this document I use. Here's a spreadsheet I use. Oh, here's a copy of this thing I did. And if you don't have access to that, and you don't have someone that's willing to show you what that is, you need to get that person. And if you can't get that person, you need to consider paying for a portion of some services that are provided by a company, an organization, a consultant that you can trust to give it to you. Because you can spin your wheels, you can do it on your own, right? It's all public, it's federal, there's transparency. That's why the government contracting process is so great, because there's a level of transparency there. They can't just do what they want to do. They can't just give it to the company they like. They have to give it to the company that submitted the appropriate bid at the appropriate price at the appropriate time. So it's good in that way. So you have to decide, how much are you going to fumble on your own to figure it out, and how much are you going to pay a few hundred, maybe a couple $1,000 to let somebody do it for you or show you how to do it, so that you have that template the next time. Because when you're getting into it, you're geeked up, you're fired up, and you're trying to do it, and then every step along the way, things just seem a little bit more difficult, a little harder. The unknown factor is huge. The learning factor, the learning curve is huge. And it's taken years for me to really understand it. And I still run up against some things where I'll see an acronym I don't understand. I'm in the military, I'm around federal stuff all the time. And it's even difficult for me. So my advice on GovCon Saturday is definitely look into government contracting. I will be talking about it every Saturday, and maybe on some Fridays. Hit me up in the comments if you have questions. I'd be glad to answer them, or point you in the direction of some government federal resources websites that will have the information. I definitely think you should get into it, but do your research first. If you don't have a company established, definitely do your research first, because it may determine the direction your company goes, and pick your battles. Decide what you're going to outsource, decide what you're going to pay for, and decide what you're going to do yourself. And that's all I got. This is your girl, the Real Teddy Talks, signing off. Thank you for watching me today, and I'll see you tomorrow.